Hello, it's Saturday. It is here anyway. Right, let's start off with this. I was stabbing around the interwebs, and for Over the Peak they had this different way of looking at the website. And this rates your trustworthiness, vendor reliability, privacy and child safety. So Over the Peak is good for trustworthiness, vendor reliability and privacy, but not so hot on child safety. I don't know if you're interested, but I think if I stab round the back I can see that there's roughly 200 something people watch the video presentation most days. You know, it's up and down and different people come and go, but there's generally just over 200 views of the presentation and about 50 plays of the audio. So if we were a nomadic tribe, after not much time we could get to know each other really quite well. People. And yes, that was keeping this comment off the front page again. William Falberg, and I'll apologise straight off to William Falberg, who's made the effort to comment. I'll read it. Question. Can't not questions. Always say questions good. When you refer to central banks, are you talking about the Fed and the ECB or broker dealers? Okay, now we know the level we're talking about here. If the Fed and or the ECB are regarded as central banks, do they have equivalents in China, Russia and the various other sovereign states? As you can see, I've replied down below. I believe North Korea probably even has a central bank. They all have a central bank. Even France has got a central bank, although there's the ECB. And I remember back to that little dispute around Libya, and it was in the early weeks that the rebels said that they had set up the real central bank of Libya. It's that important, yeah. All countries, as far as I know, even North Korea, and I'm not sure of that, have all got central banks. It is the system. It doesn't have to be the system, but that is the system. Or just the G20. Does the Bank of International Settlements Basel II Accord have anything to do with reserve requirement being increased worldwide? Reserve requirement being increased worldwide. So I said in my second thing that saying that makes me want to kill him. If so, why did they increase reserve requirements if they knew immediate effect would be a worldwide banking crisis? Can you think of any gain to be had by decreasing monetary liquidity and concentrating capital in central banks' asset column? I'm still trying to rationalise the timing between Basel II and the unfounded, to my mind, global economic collapse of 2008. Now, I've highlighted this comment because of the other, we can all get an idea from the overall comment what we're dealing with. But it's that last bit that bothers me. The unfounded, to my mind, global economic collapse. This, I think, sorry, William, if I'm wrong, is some sort of conspiracy theory type thing. Now, this is like I was pushing these things with Collapso. There's a reason for me doing this. Coming to a great, huge, macro, mega opinion about something, like, to my mind, the global economic collapse is unfounded, or Collapso's because there's this exponential something in the banking system's going to collapse, has got to be based on more than one or two bits of information. That's all I'm saying. I'm talking to you directly, all of you. Do not have these huge opinions based on one or two bits of information. If you've got a mega opinion on anything, I don't care what it is about anything, it's got to be based on more than one or two little bit of factlets. They can be even good facts, they can be good solid facts, but one or two solid facts aren't nearly good enough to have a huge great opinion. It is much better to think, No, I'll have the one or two little facts, but I'll forego the great big opinion for the moment. Thank you very much. Okay. That's the end of Papa Mystic's message for the day. So on to normal things. And I'll just sail through these reasonably quickly, I think. So I'm sorry about that. A lot of you don't need that sort of a message, but it seems that a lot of you do. Long-term interest rates back to 1790. Have a look. Back to 1790, but have a look. Well, look at what you like. Pause, have a look. But look at it from the Second World War all the way up to 1981, called the Volcker moments, and then all the way down again. Interesting. Little incidents in real history dotted throughout that interest rate chart. Unemployment in the United States of America has dropped, as we know, being trumpeted in the media. That's the blue line. And it's dropped down to whatever it was, 8.4, the last one, was it? 8.4 was the level of unemployment for African Americans before the crisis. So it's dropped down to the level of unemployment for African Americans before the crisis. They're the red line, and they are now up at 16%. As the modern people say, I believe. Just saying. Oh, I did put this in. Okay. FT Alphaville. All is for the best in the best of all possible Commerzbanks. Commerzbank that I was touting that the German government might have to come in and put some capital into the bank. Shares in Commerzbank were up about 11% at Pixel time, but this was January 19th. It's generally a strong day for European banks as well, but we suppose, bemusedly, it's following this statement from the German lender on its 5.3 billion capital hole. Now, that capital hole used to be bigger than 5.3. It's been brought down to 5.3 by various things. And I'll just read this, if you can stay. It's Saturday, eh? This is just the start of it. It goes on below this that I haven't snipped. All right. The capital requirement in accordance with the EBA methodology, we understand this now, could be reduced by the end of 2011, but don't worry about it, from euro 5.3 billion by euro 3 billion thanks to risk-weighted asset reduction, core tier 1 relief approximately 1.6 billion, a reduction in regulatory capital deductions some 0.2 billion, and retention of earnings. Instead of paying them out, they stick them in there. Okay, yeah. In the fourth quarter 2011, so this is what the government said, we don't want to come in here, you do all this, you're not paying any dividends or whatever. Approximately, etc. And it goes on. What I'm trying to say here is these are all the shenanigans that they can do on the balance sheet. The accountants come in, and it's all down to what the authorities let them get away with. I'll give you 3 more paragraphs. If you can just hold on, I'll do it reasonably quickly. Instead, this is now FT commenting on the note by Commerzbank. Instead, Commerzbank is still counting an enormous deleveraging of assets, over 3 billion of the 5.3 billion whole. Weird, firstly, that it's also counting on retained earnings. Surely revenues will be damaged by selling the assets in this current environment, surely. To limit the potential damage that deleveraging may do, one naturally wonders whether the bank will be looking to reduce RWAs, risk-weighted assets. You see, we lose the will to live with this stuff, and this is why they can get away with it, because they just organise it with their authorities. Capture, they call it, because we can't be asked with this sort of stuff. By keeping the assets on the balance sheet but selling off some of the risk to outside investors by means of bistro, and that's standing for something that's horribly complex. I've just started looking into. I can just about understand it, but I'm not going to bother you with it. Synthetic securitization. If such deals are done, it'll be largely down to the German regulator BaFin, quite amusing, BaFin, to decide whether the deals have genuinely led to a decrease in the risk sitting with Commerzbank. It's very, very difficult. But mostly note those provisos which we bolded in the above statement, which I didn't read. Is Commerzbank a bank that's optimistic about the future, or what? In other words, you put in these positive, the future is going to be rosy estimations in, and that helps as well. And then somebody that has got to come along and say, no, the future's not going to be so rosy. And that causes, it's all very problematic. Okay. It's the Financial Times again, and it's about bonds, but it's got a slight interest to it. Why Britain should pay off its war loans. The British government has a rare opportunity to save £10 million a year and gain positive PR, public relations type PR, at the same time, courtesy of the fearful bond market. All the UK has to do is to pay off its First World War debts. First World War debts, of which £2 billion is still outstanding thanks to an archaic bond with no redemption date. It's a weird world out there as soon as you start digging into it. This is just a little snip from a tweet, so the definition might not be too good for you, but it's an interesting one. It looks like it's from the BP statement, and it's just interesting. Blue, you've got the net exporters of oil, obviously. South America, going across Africa, going across the Middle East and up into Russia. It's probably a geological reasoning for that being that shape. And the green ones are the importers of oil. And the amount of sticky downness is the amount of gas, coal and oil that the importers do be importing. Okay, as you can see, this is for 1990, 2010 and 2030 projected. I'm not sure on the North American 2030 projection, which is upwards, in other words exporting, but this is the BP statistical review, and I don't agree with much in the BP statistical review, if that's what it is. But Europe, look at that, just down and going further down, and that is probably what is going to be the doom of Europe. You just can't roll against that. What is Europe going to buy all that energy with? Yeah. And other Pacific, Asia Pacific down the bottom right, looking pretty shocking as well. India and China in the future looking bad as well. Either the world gets together and happily and generously shares all the energy amount around equally, because it was just luck that the country happened to be a country that's got all this energy embedded in it. No. It's going to cause problems, isn't it? But you can see that's a lot can be said and based on that one little tweet bucket chart. And finish just with information I've got on RSS feed, Adam Curtis's blog, and he's put a new post up. Each new post of his is like a documentary of itself. You just read down, see the pictures, play the videos, and it's like watching an Adam Curtis BBC documentary. And this is The Years of Stagnation and the Poodles of Power. I'll read it saying it's still Saturday. Everybody is always remarking about how stuck our society feels these days. The music doesn't change, the political parties are all exactly the same, and films and TV dramas are all almost always set in the past. I've just started watching Downton Abbey because somebody sent it to us in DVD form. I do like a costume drama though. Anyway, we are also stuck with an economic system that is not delivering the paradise that it once promised, but is instead creating chaos and hardship, yet no one can imagine a better alternative. So we remain static, paralysed by a terrible political and cultural claustrophobia. Bye.